Kevin Wilkinson, the founder, CEO of Living Full Project. Kevin Wilkinson holds a very special place in my heart. I've been shouting him out all week. He is my adopted big bro. Kevin is someone that I met about a little over a year ago in November of 2019 at the very almost beginning of this journey that is this actually curious movement to spread empathy. And he's many things, but to me, he's a mentor. He's a gentle ear when I need it. He's a role model in asking questions to let people find their way. But I wanted to just read a quick introduction to him from his website because he's also so eloquent, and you'll see he has also special eloquence edge on many of us once you hear him speak. Maybe that's a cheesy joke, but I think you know what I'm talking about. He's from London. That's I've always envied a little British accent. So I won't attempt to read this in a British accent. Living Full Project, in his words, what would it feel like to design a life of purpose and joy, where we can affect lasting change both easily and permanently, to live a life of choice rather than circumstance? We believe that this is 100% possible. The principles we discuss throughout our business use as the foundation of all are directly linked to our sense of well-being. If just one of these are out of line, then it has an effect on the rest and thus stops us from living full out. These principles exist naturally, but over time we've become disconnected from their importance. Through complicated and misleading messages, we often lose our connection to them. We forget what truly works for us as individuals. We believe we can help navigate our way back to a place of peace, freedom, and authenticity. Yeah, Kevin, I just have to say thank you for your presence in my life and helping me to see that in living form. And I can't wait for you to share your story and your ways with the Actually Curious community.
Wow. Well, thank you, brother. Thank you. First of all, I wanted to say thank you for having me on, first and foremost, but also just to acknowledge the kind of journey that you've been on, Michael. I mean, when we connected, like, that time ago, you were just about setting this off. You were going on the road with this, and you were just going over a breakup and all sorts of stuff. You were in a phase where it was definitely the kind of, which is, I'll talk about this later, the kind of surrendering stage, the death and rebirth. You know, we have to, it's one of the principles that I'm going to talk about today is the, it's about the natural cycles, you know, paying attention to nature and knowing exactly where we are in those cycles. There's something quite rhythmic around what we do. So if we find ourselves in crisis, we know there's another time coming. And I just want to say I'm so proud of you and what you've done and what you've managed to achieve. So just keep up the good work, brother. So I'm going to discuss two things today within the time I've got, and they're kind of linked. So I'm not sure if any of you heard of the hero's journey, coined by the name a guy called Joseph Campbell. And in my work, we use that template, and I'll talk more about that, the hero's journey. But just to quickly surmise, most of your favorite films probably use this same template. Harry Potter, any Walt Disney's use a template for this as well. Essentially, there is initially a call to adventure, and then the heroine goes on this journey of essentially self-discovery and self-mastery, coming back round, meeting mentors that can assist them, defeating some demons, and then they find that they're at outside a cave or whatever the thing is to defeat a bigger demon. And it's in that process that part of them has to there's a death and rebirth cycle. And then from that, they come back into their reality. And the reality is the same, but they have changed. And this is what happens with us as human beings. Because how many times have we had this think, oh, if it wasn't for this, looking back now, Steve Jobs says, if you can only connect the dots looking back. When you look back, think, oh, if this didn't happen to me, then I wouldn't be here now. And that's what I mean. There's this Michael's story at the start was just at the start of that kind of transition, that he was at this point of surrender when actually everything around me is falling apart. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's a bad thing. It just means you either choose to let that sort of take you out, or you use that and leverage that to create something beautiful. And this is what he's done here with this community and everything else. So when you find yourself at the start of one of these cycles, they normally call it the call to adventure or something like this. So one of the key questions I ask people is, are you ready? Are you ready to take that leap? And normally, if people say yes, but there's a reason for why. It's like you're sick of the same results that you're getting. You want to create something, whatever the thing is for you, the change work, it's always the same. So the first two questions are you ready to take that step? And how do you know? That's the first cycle. So this is this half is like the preparation side of things. And then the next question is, what is it you're hoping to bring back into your reality? What is it that you're looking to obtain? Is it a fear of, is it sort of overcoming something? Is it to create something? Whatever that thing is for you. The next step is, what gift are you giving? As you're going through this process, what part of you are you going to give or sacrifice or use, or, the resources are you going to use to go along this journey into the change? And the next one is really key, and none of us really pay too much attention to, I think, is safety. So as you're going along this journey, this can feel quite intense at sometimes. It causes a lot of tension, and you need to know what makes me safe. What is it? You may even think prior to starting your journey, what is it that kept me stuck in the same place? What is that element of safety? So how can you recreate safety? Now I'm going on this journey, and there's going to be loads of uncertainty, loads of challenge and everything else. I need to know what makes me safe, so I can go back to that. I can refer back to it as and when I need to. And then accompanying that is allies. Who's on my team? Who's got my back? Yeah, who can I rely on to help me guide me along this journey? And this is when the journey really starts. So you'll see in a second, this is slightly different from Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, because Joseph Campbell's cycle is more about the very much personal, whereas I'm a big fan of this cycle because of the allies. They can come along with you. That could be mentors, coaches, friends, families, books, whatever the thing is for you, whatever that is that helps inspire you to keep you going. And this is when as you're going along this journey, this is when you're going to meet resistance. So it's important to know what the resistance is. It's important to know what your own subconsciously, you're going to have stuff to come up, and you're going to want to and be tested as well. But subconsciously and consciously, you're going to want to know what are the things that potentially I'm going to be resistant to, because that's obviously going to be your medicine, as we would say. This is a moment for growth. So if we can think about these things ahead of time, or at least as a potential reality, then it makes it easier to know where you are in the cycle. Okay, well, I knew I was going to feel this way. I know, and then you have the choice. This is all it's about. It's about creating a choice for yourself. If you have that, then it'll allow you to keep going. Okay, I knew this bit was going to come up, and I don't feel great about this, and my anxiety's flaring up, and I really don't want to do this thing, or whatever the thing is. It still gives you the opportunity to either slow down or still take the step. Next to the resistance is feeling lost. So you imagine, that saying, you can't see the wood for the trees. This is where you are, the uncertainty is at its highest. And you're not sure if you can do this, and you're in no man's land. You don't want to go back to where you started, but you can't see what it is that you quite want to create. You can't see the end in sight. This is where it's really important then to remember, what is it that I'm bringing back? Use that as your North Star. And you may need to know or consult your allies. You may need to require a little bit of safety. So going back to your safety and thinking, okay, well, what is it that keeps me safe? Now I can think, now I can rest. And having all those things lined up, it makes that journey a lot more predictable, in a sense. So the Joseph Campbell School of Thought is pretty much the same journey. So if you can imagine, I think that's why we love an underdog, or we love things like the Harry Potter thing or whatever. It's almost, and it keeps us on the edge of our seat. And what Joseph Campbell recognized was, as a mythologist, he would go back in time, study the indigenous people, and the sculptures or the drawings on the wall, or everybody tells the same story. So there's something then within us, the human being, that loves that, because it typifies the human spirit, right? So I just wanted to, rather than go through the same thing again, I just wanted to, there's a beautiful part that I noticed with them in Joseph Campbell's part, which is the death and rebirth. And this is akin to nature, right? So my sisters on this call, ladies, you'll understand the kind of your moon, yeah, the cycle of your moon. So at times if you use that analogy, then there are spring and summer is where you have the most energy. Yeah. So your autumn and winter is where you're hunkering down, want to slowing down, probably want to eat those that sugar, go after that chocolate, or whatever the thing is for you. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's knowing exactly where you are, or knowing where you are in your season, that makes the journey easier. So I encourage some of my female clients to, if they're entrepreneurs or they're allowed to, they can organize their diary around that, especially because you are literally from week to week a different person. And we are as men too. So, but it's just knowing that cycle, which is really key, so we can know when to maximize and leverage our energy in the spring and summer months, and also when we need to sort of just slow down, take time, observe, gather our thoughts, and and not try and over push, because this is when you'll burn out. So, and nature teaches us that beautifully, right? It doesn't, when you see I'm lucky to live in the countryside, so I see out my window, I can literally, it's like a new picture every single day. And when you see the trees kind of going into winter and they're falling or whatever, and there's the decay process, that is the death, but that is also the decaying of the leaves, and everything else around it is feeding the nutrients back into the soil, therefore creating new birth going through. So I suppose in closing then, for me, that is what we've lost sense of, is those seasons. And by observing and going back, we're in a beautiful time. What a time to be alive, where literally we're being forced to slow down right now. So therefore the question is, what is it I want to give birth to in this kind of quiet period, in this quiet time? that's all I have.
Wow, I feel so invigorated with this whole conversation. I feel like that call to adventure is something I'm on right now. I've left my home in New York. I'm subletting my apartment, and I just decided to sublet it from December till about September. And I'm just on the go. I was in Miami last month, staying with my friend. I'm in New Orleans now. I'm going to Orlando next week, and I'm just finding that, someone my friend told me yesterday that as a person, I'm into astrology and numerology. So he said, as a person and as a life path one, I function as a generator in life, that sometimes it's really important for me to just sit still and listen to what my body tells me. My body either says mm-hmm or mm-mm. And I've been following my body with the mm-hmm, with the yes, with that mm-hmm. And it's just been taking me, and it feels good. So it's like the season that I'm in. I'm in this kind of, I think I'm in a spring. I feel the spring, and I feel the blossoming, and everything literally right now looks beautiful to me. And I don't think I've ever felt this way before. And so I think what you're saying right now is so important for us to be able to really tap into that, pay attention to the moon and what it does for you, because it really does map some shit out. Excuse my language. Are there any questions? Yeah, let's see questions in the chat. I'm on my phone, so or anyone has any questions, please feel free to toss it out there.
Yeah, I have one.
Donna, yes, go for it.
I love your comments, Kevin. I'm kind of rocked right now by them and definitely want to look into them more. But I think, and I put in the chat that I think menopause is definitely a period and a season of death. And it's one that can suck you in and you feel totally lost, separated from yourself, and maybe don't even know who you are anymore. And you're looking for that rebirth. But my question is, how can you have faith and believe that there is a rebirth? How can you have some sort of faith and belief so that you can keep yourself going?
Thank you. A couple of things spring to mind is this period of time, especially with menopause, and it can be a prolonged. We're not talking about moon cycles now. This can be a prolonged thing, and not quite feeling yourself and not knowing exactly where you are. And the thing still remain the same is that there's sometimes the resistance of that, of not wanting to change or whatever, is where we can find our most suffering as well. And if I was to fully let go and if I die, I die, fully surrender, then we see what comes out of that. Is normally when we think we're surrendering, and when we're still holding on somewhat. And the other thing I would say is, historically, there would be times when things have gone wrong. You couldn't see an end, and yet something has come from that complete surrender. And surrender doesn't mean quit. It just means there's a kind of a level of acceptance. And within that acceptance then becomes freedom. And then we build upon that.